think I've always been terribly conscious of people's life chances and the injustices around them. And I think, in my work and the rest of my life as an activist, that lies behind it really. Particularly life chances. So many people, they had a lousy education, could maybe not even read, and I'm really interested in any ways that give those people more influence on the institutions and everything that they're involved in, gives them more say in how those things run, because I feel so often they're being tripped up by those, whether we're talking about, employers or the benefit agencies, the struggle for housing. I think that's what motivates me a lot, really. I'm much more of a, how can I put it, a foot soldier, really. I'm not going to sort of reorganise civic society. I wish I could. But I think I'm awfully interested in sort of projects. I don't know if you've heard about co-production. Now, things like that, these groups that are talking to employees, talking to the NHS, hopefully talking to the benefit system, I think that's fabulous, that going on. And funny little things, like at Winter Comfort, there's a couple of people, surely won't mind me mentioning. One has been a service user, one hasn't, and it was Anglia Ruskin that did research on liver disease and how so much liver disease is not picked up early, because people are scared of hospital, or they don't want to give up drinking or fags or whatever. And I think this is a marvellous project, because these two are now working with the hospital. They're coming in to Winter Comfort and probably other places, and dealing with people who are frightened of being involved with the hospital and frightened what might be said to them about other aspects of their life. And I really admire and love that sort of thing, and want more of it to happen. And I did raise it at the Addenbrooke's board meetings, because I think, we go to those. And so I've raised it there just to make sure they know it's happening. And so the co-production thing, which I suddenly became aware of, they used to call me Posh Tart at Jimmy's. I was quite proud of that. Obviously, it's mostly, hopefully, about the voice. But yes, so, and, I work a lot in the laundry. We've only got 2 washing machines and 2 dryers. And oddly enough, it's really important, if you're on the street, to be able to have your clothes washed is really important. And also we have clothes to give out, but they're usually the wrong sort of clothes. I always think they're probably people clearing out after somebody's died, because we get an awful lot of large bloke stuff, and what we need is, slim men's stuff. And then I'm really pleased that Winter Comfort does a girls group. I'm not directly involved, but I know the workers that are, and I know the service users that go to it. And I think that's brilliant, because they're a minority. And oddly enough, something that really gets to me is fathers who are struggling to be in contact with their children, as a result of divorce, drinking, homelessness, and sort of battle through court very often to get access. And the fact that you really need somewhere to live if your child's going to come and stay with you. So that's another, often an injustice. And I really admire those men, because I think it often society's against them, or they have to go through that process. And then, one, I knew he was coming for a court case about access, And of course, his ex-partner wasn't there, so it had to be adjourned again. And I thought, I said to him, how do you keep it together? He said, I have to, don't I? Otherwise I won't get anywhere. But he had good help. I think it's really lucky to be a volunteer. I don't see files, I don't see backgrounds. If it's somebody particularly dangerous, somebody might tell me, but it doesn't often happen. So I'm just hearing their side of the story, and I do sometimes have to say to myself, this is only one side. You know, if people get angry, feel they've been banned unjustly, I feel for them, but there's almost certainly another side. And I think being old helps. I'm lucky to feel able to hug people and be hugged in return, and I think quite a lot of them have had grannies or mums that have been important to them. And I think there's a bit of that role there. I want to be in the kitchen, in the laundry, talking to people, playing games, especially ping pong. It's a privilege, actually. Why should they trust you with their stories? Why should they trust you that you're still a friend, even though they might have been banned or let rip because everything was so frustrating? I think it's easier as a volunteer to stay in a friendly role, and I don't have to use authority. I think it all comes down really to people having more say in their lives and the life chances that have already affected them, and that they're not listened to enough. And that's why I'm interested in co-production, really. I think I've left the Labour Party. I've been terribly disappointed, like so many people. And straight away it was about fuel allowance, particularly the children's benefit, particularly. And then after that, moving on to Gaza, I can't quite bear the fact that the government hasn't been backing Gaza and the needs of Gaza. And also, I think this government is there's too much repression, too much party discipline. You know, people are sacked for such sort of minor things, and this is going to undermine innovative thought and any radical thought, I feel. And I'm really concerned about the influence of corporations and big business and anti-climate change. I feel once a government gets into power, it seems to me those are the people they're talking to and who are lobbying them. And I think that is anti-democratic, very much so. Also, I'd like to see the voting age dropped to 16. And I would love there to be much more within ordinary education, you know, about democracy, about local government, about civic society, about how to question authority. And when I was training to be a social worker, we did social history. Things like Chartism, vote for women, all the struggles that have gone before, which all have been a form of democracy. Just the reform bills themselves getting a vote even for men, you know. I want people to know, and also now post-colonial history. So I want kids to learn about these things from an early age, and then they're in a position to use their vote and maybe their ability. You know, I've got 1 or 2 mates who don't bother to vote, and it's heartbreaking. And I tried, you know, you don't want to turn them off, but I tried to say, what about South Africa? What about women? You know.